everybody. As Peter mentioned, I'm Madeline Hoyne from BP. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about AI and data. So harnessing cognitive technology in refining, which is the area of the business I work in, to accelerate our digitization. So a little bit about me. I'm Madeline Hoyne. I'm the optimization superintendent at Whiting Refinery, BP's largest refinery based in Northwest Indiana. I manage a team of engineers there accountable for delivering refinery gross margin optimization. And I've been with BP for about 19 years in a variety of technical and commercial roles within midstream, refining, and petrochemicals. In my career, I really have a passion around enabling data-based decisions or data-driven decisions and around commercial optimization. So BP, you may have heard this in the news or seen some news about it, but we're really on a transformation from being a traditional international oil company to an international energy company. By 2030, we aim to be a very different type of energy company, and by 2050, we have a net zero ambition, and we were one of the first major oil companies to come out with a net zero ambition. But that strategy is built around 3 different focus areas, one of which is resilient hydrocarbons. So, traditionally, we've been a hydrocarbon business, and resilient hydrocarbons and high grading our existing hydrocarbon portfolio is part of that strategy. And the strategy is also supported by 3 different areas of differentiation, one of which is driving digital innovation. So you'll hear a little bit in my talk today about driving digital innovation in the traditional resilient hydrocarbon portfolio, and obviously that's linked here to our bigger strategy. So in practice, what that means is engineers like those who work on my team who have domain and business expertise, kind of on the right-hand side here, are partnering with traditional IT and data, putting our data to work, so-called, in new ways to meet the business needs. And today I'm going to tell you a little bit about a journey that we've been on using data and cognitive AI to optimize BP's largest refinery. So there are several challenges around digital transformation within production and operations. If you guys went to the keynote speaker this morning, Dustin, who talked about being born digital, we were definitely not born digital. It's a big transformation and a big cultural transformation. One of the first challenges is difficulty to effectively encode the worker knowledge around constraints in our complex operations in a manner that doesn't require a lot of programming. We have a lot of chemical process engineers, and they are not computer programmers. The second challenge is around the AI black box concept and getting folks to really trust and understand in AI and advanced analytic solutions. And lastly, in production and operations, it's imperative to us that humans still remain in the loop for many of these decisions. But at the same time, they need to be provided with a richer set of data and better ability to augment their decision-making capabilities. So we needed a decision-making support tool for frontline operations using real-time process data, numeric models, and an explainable AI reasoner. Not a black box, but something that they could actually understand and explain. This has use cases in asset optimization, like at Whiting, but also asset reliability, power demand, safe operating windows, supply chain optimization, and integrity management. But we started in refining, even though it could be an industry agnostic solution. And we started in refining because the dynamic nature of multiple refinery constraints must be managed in order to achieve the operating targets. And this we thought was a tremendous opportunity. We wanted to enable every operator to be our best operator, making the best database decisions they could, and as if they were like the most seasoned operator that we had. So traditionally, closed loop control systems have been effective tools to implement the refinery plan and achieve the refinery optimization goals. And these are a great solution, but they do leave a gap between the objectives that our production planning and commercial teams set on a weekly and monthly basis. And we rely on operations and the humans in the middle to close this gap. Traditional closed loop optimization solutions take multiple months to build, and they take specialized advanced process control skills that you may or may not have in surplus within your organization. But we really wanted something that we could build and deploy objectives to operations in less than a day, so that we could be more dynamic and help to close gaps of constraints that were maybe appearing this week that we hadn't seen before, or we wouldn't design a full advanced process control solution for. So BP partnered with Beyond Limits to employ this type of AI in the Lumini Refinery Advisor. And it helps our team to operate closer to the refinery plan. So it's something we developed in partnership together. So some of the key capabilities of this tool, it identifies deviations from the plan using real-time process data and advises on the best path for remediation. Maintains situational awareness to recommend the right action to the right operator at the right time. Leverages best practices, strategies, and actions to help guide us back to plan. And offers customizable dashboarding for measuring plan versus actual all in one place. So on this slide, on the lower right, we have what we call the operations scorecard. So I'd like to draw your attention to that. This is kind of a generic, non-whiting, site agnostic version. But here we can build in objectives and measure them with a simple red, yellow, green status. The operators really like this. It's very easy to use. So they can see when they're not at plan and there's actions available to mitigate that. When there's not at plan and there's no actions available to mitigate that, that's a different scenario where the operator's got no handles to mitigate the fact that they're not at plan, and when they're at plan. And this can include, these objectives can include and do include multiple constraints. So you might have something like a process hydraulic constraint, which is indicated by a valve position going wide open. You might have cut point targets, certain product quality targets, and you're trying to manage all of those. Within this tool, we can add in the logic to manage them all together with like and logic, or we can use or logic. You can satisfy one of these two constraints and turn the objective green. And you can layer that and or logic in kind of as much as your heart desires. And this really helps us to manage the trade-offs. The operators and humans tend to get overwhelmed when there's multiple things that they're trying to manage at once, but we can encode it in the tool and kind of boil it down again into this simple red, yellow, green status. And when an when an objective is red, then we have actions built into the tool, which are also tested against real-time PI data, real-time process data, to see if they are available or not. And this view is customizable for the end user. So if we have a console operator or a board operator who's on a certain unit, they can have their view just set up to look at that unit. Or if we have an energy engineer who's looking at energy objectives across the entire refinery, they can set up their view to look at the things that they want to see. So having that customizable view and that simple red, yellow, green, it's really powerful. So The Refinery Advisor was first developed at BP after we made an investment in Beyond Limits to really close this gap in inconsistent operations and manage the complex operating conditions. With quick adoption time, we built over 300 objectives within this using 2,000 plus refinery sensors. And this is a no-code software as a service solution, meaning that we were able to have our process engineers quickly encode their domain knowledge into the tool. We saw a 17% increase in adherence to these objectives from our baseline performance. And some of those sources of value include higher utilization in the plant, better management of hydrogen, which is one of our utilities that we use in refining, upgrading fuel gas to propane, so upgrading a lower value fuel gas to a higher value propane product, and greater constraint saturation, able to more frequently saturate multiple constraints across the refinery. All the reasoner data is also historized, and we export it into Power BI. So we can look back at these trends over time and use that for performance management. That's also been really powerful for us. We talked on the previous slide about, kind of the multifaceted constraints and layering them all together in this tool. Doing something like that in Excel over historic data is just really challenging to manage and keep up to date. But here we've got everything historized that the board operator is seeing kind of as they're seeing it. But what do the users say? I talked at the beginning about how we wanted to enable every operator to be the best operator. And this is just a little bit of feedback from the several surveys that we've done on the user group at Whiting. So the board operator, the console operator, says it's really informative for new operators who will most likely regard it as a core tool for the refinery. Their boss, the shift supervisor, says it helps the entire crew understand how we achieve targets. And that person's boss, the shift manager, says it encourages conversations between operations and it helps us drive to true system constraints and consistency amongst the crews. I'm also pleased to share that Beyond Limits Lumini Refinery Advisor won the 2021 Oil and Gas Engineering Product of the Year Silver Award for advanced analytics software. And look forward to taking your questions when we have the panel discussion and we can talk about it in some more detail. Thank you.